Now back to Inside Real Estate. Here's Mike the Realtor.
Hey, folks, we are back. InsideRealEstateRadio.com. InsideRealEstateRadio.com is the website. Time to do a little bit of business talk. We got our good friend Richard Tonica over at Goosehead Insurance Agency here live. His website, RichardTAgency.com. RichardTAgency.com. Don't forget, he can shop 20 to 25 companies behind the scenes to get you the best rates and policies. And don't forget, he can bundle your auto and your home. Totally different companies. Nobody else can do that. Richard, what's up?
How are you doing today?
I'm great.
Fantastic. Okay. One of the questions that I get all the time is, how is my rate set? And there's a lot of different factors that come into play when you're talking about what your rate is going to be, what my rate is going to be, what Sam's or anyone else's rate is going to be. That plays a part in it. There are three main factors that come into play for deciding how your insurance is calculated, or what your premium is calculated for your home insurance. The first is the home's construction. Do you have a frame house? Is it a brick house? What is the exterior? So most of the houses around here are brick veneer.
Right.
You're going to get a much better rate with a brick veneer home than you are with a frame home, just because of the fire retardancy of the brick as opposed to wood. Now, if you have a hardy plank, some of the different carriers are going to classify that differently. Some carriers may actually call that still a frame home. Others are going to classify it as a brick veneer. And the reason that there's a difference in solid brick and a brick veneer. So if you have a wood frame, and then you have brick on the outside, that's brick veneer, because the whole frame of your house is not brick. It's just a brick veneer.
Right.
So when you're looking at that, you're looking at also what kind of foundation do you have? Do you have a slab foundation, which most of the homes around here are slab nowadays, but before there used to be pier and beam, and so you're going to have different issues with different kinds of foundations. And one of the things that you were talking about was all the rain and how that affects your foundation. That's one of the reasons that they're looking at that, and they take that into consideration. And there are some carriers out there that will not take a home if it doesn't have a slab. So getting to know you and all the things about your house makes the process so much easier, knowing all the facts about the house that you're purchasing or the house that you live in. That way we make sure that we place you with the correct carrier and that you're not going to have any issues down the line. But in order to do that, we have to know you. We have to know about your house. The second thing is the territory where you're located. Every different, and there's a lot of things that come into play with that. Is there a lot of crime in your area? What are the crime statistics? Unfortunately, and this kind of goes back to the construction also, does your home have burglar bars? If it does, you're more than likely in a high risk area for theft and or burglary. And so those areas where you're seeing higher crime statistics are also going to have higher rates, just because the likelihood that your home is going to be damaged in some form or fashion by either someone trying to gain entry and or usually there's a lower credit score. I'm not saying always, but your credit score does play a part of everything. And so when you're looking at this, especially if you're a married couple, one of the things that I would look at is if you're getting a loan, who has the better credit score? Now, if you're going through and you're getting a new loan, it's not always the person with the better credit score that's being listed first on the home mortgage. But in order to set the loan or the insurance up correctly for the mortgage company, I have to have it set up exactly the way that the loan is being set up. And so whether it's the husband being listed first or the wife being listed first, however that's being done on the loan, that's the way I have to do it on the insurance, at least for the first year.
Right.
After that, then it's whoever's going to give me the better credit score, that's the person that's going to be listed, if that's okay with you.
Right.
And every town and or area is given a different protection class. So there's a protection class from 1 all the way up to 10. And depending on where you are at, it's looking at what is the proximity to firehouses, your fire stations, your police, all the services that you would normally have inside a city. If you're in a like Fort Worth, for example, Fort Worth is a protection class 1, but they may be a protection class 1 with company A, B, and C, and protection class 2 with company D, E, and F. Every carrier has a different way of classifying the protection class for a different area. And so when you're looking at the key services, if you're within 1 to 2 miles within the city, you're in fantastic shape. There's nothing that's going to happen to your house that isn't going to be able to be addressed within minutes.
Right.
Whether it's a small fire or something like that, being able to get out there and take it. And this is where all three of them come together, because let's say you have a brick house that's within 1 mile of a fire station in a low crime area. They're going to be able to get, that fire station is going to be able to get to that area or to that house quickly, and the brick is going to stop the fire from spreading faster. So they're going to be able to minimize the damage. Now, if you have that same frame house, or if you have a frame house in that same area, the likelihood that more is going to be burned faster is highly likely. So when you're looking at this, you're looking at all these different things. But keep in mind that I didn't talk about the age of the home. Age does play a part of it, but like I said at the very beginning, there are a lot of different factors, because I brought up your credit, because your credit's going to play a role also. Mm-hmm. But when you're just looking at a house, these are the three main factors.
Well, and these are great things to bring up, because, folks, for buyers who are, thinking about buying, especially first-time buyers, these are things that the insurance company thinks about. So you should be thinking about these things as well. And honestly, a lot of them do not. They may not follow necessarily our recommendations, which is, you talked about crime. We absolutely say, you need to go and look at the local websites for crime, look for indicators within the neighborhood as you drive it around. As realtors, we're kind of barred from talking about crime directly. We have to refer them to the crime websites of the local city PDs. But, we can, mention, look for indicators that you would associate with, like you mentioned, bars, on windows, something of that nature. But all of these things are huge that people need to look at when they're buying.
Absolutely.
Because your insurance company is definitely looking at it.
And one of the things that we were talking about before we ever started the show today was I've got a customer that's looking at flood insurance, because they just found out after the fact that they went on contract on the house that their new home is in a flood zone. And so not only does that mean that they're going to have to get homeowners insurance, now you're going to pay more for your flood policy, which you're going to have, and you're going to have it up to the dwelling amount that you have for your homeowners insurance. Which that means, let's say on the homeowners insurance, I have the house, the replacement cost at $150,000. The flood policy is going to have to be at least $150,000, because not only does the bank wants to make sure that no matter what happens, they're going to be covered for the amount or the replacement cost for that house. And with it being in an elevated risk of their zones, Zone X is what most of us are in for our flood policies. Zone A and AE, and there's some other delineations that is going to mean that you have to have a flood policy if you have a mortgage on your home. You're looking at least $1,800 for a flood policy, in addition to the homeowner's policy.
Regular homeowners.
So let's say your homeowner's policy is $1,500. Now you're looking at an additional $1,800 to $2,500, and it may be more. I never know until we go in there and we see what zone you're in, if you have an elevation certificate. All these different things come into play, and we never know until we actually go in there and start putting all the information in, and then we start. It's just like anything else that I do. It's not just one option. It's giving multiple options for every different customer, no matter what their policy type is.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and you got to be watching out for, when we're looking at new houses, trying to get that survey in advance. But if you can't get that survey, you can go to the FEMA website, figure that out, whether it's in the flood zone or not, because a lot of times you may just want to go the other way. Really just depends. But figuring out that policy amount sometimes is something you want to figure out early on, whether it's, because it may be a house. What if there's an HOA? So you got all these fees on top of fees. And good thing is we got low interest rates right now, so it makes it a little more attractive for those types of houses. But by and large, those are homes that you got to really think about that financial expense.
And what would you do? I mean, if you had a customer that was looking at a home, $150,000-$160,000 in a high risk for flood and crime, I mean, wouldn't you steer them towards something else?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, my thing is making sure everybody knows completely, what they're getting into. Bringing all these things to their attention. Are there railroad tracks nearby? Is it next to an airport? Noise, all of these types of things that we look at when we're near a house. Not only, could it be potential flooding hazard or crime or otherwise? Absolutely. They need to know about all these things so they can make a good decision.
Absolutely. And that's what I try to do with all of my customers. It's like I said earlier. I give them multiple options for every kind of policy that they have. But at the end of the day, I mean, I know what I would do in certain situations, but at the end of the day, it's their policy, and whatever they want to do, I'll do.
Mm-hmm.
But it's going through and making sure that you have all the information that you can have to make a good, educated decision on what you want to do and when you want to do it.
Absolutely. No doubt about it. Good stuff. All excellent stuff, as always. Hey, folks, Richard's website is richardtagency.com, richardtagency.com. Go to his website, check it out. His phone number's right there. Give him a shout, talk to him. He's going to run through everything with you. Whether you've got toys, home, auto, life, or otherwise, he can take care of all of those needs for you. Don't forget, he can bundle different things with different carriers, which nobody else can do that, because you may need one carrier for home and another for auto. That's the best scenario for you. Nobody else can do that. Richard can do that for you over at Goosehead. So give him a shout. Hey, folks, another good segment with Mr. Richard Tonica over at Goosehead Insurance Agency. We're going to take a short break, folks. We'll see you on the other side.